modern world forces us to be as productive as never before. If we look at that chart right now, we will see that productivity is going down. We are at our highest point of being productive. Well, that means that you cannot cut hair faster if you work as a hair cutter. That's your maximum point, and humanity as the whole reach this point. If you look at next slide, I want to tell you my story here. My name is Yehor Shtanko, and a year ago I went on my exchange to the United States. And there I felt that my productivity in my home country, Ukraine, and in the United States has been two completely different stories. How about to make it systematically? What if you could look on that from different side? And for that I created pro-visuality. So I thought, well, just to take productivity in my life is one thing, but to feel and see it every day is completely another story. So I add visual management to this system. It's absolutely something new, and that I called pro-visuality. The key aspect here is not only to take productivity in your life, but also visualize it. But that's not it. On the next slide, I add some information about how can you run against yourself. You know, I'm not an Elon Musk. I cannot work 12 hours a day. Well, maybe I can. But is that what I'm looking for? No. I have to go against myself. I have to run against myself. And I want to have this feeling of gaming. And scientific studies proved that gaming as the whole push people to have more interest to what they do. So in this system, we have several components that help you not only to stay productive, but see it and go against yourself for better results and for better productivity. Here you can see three main components that are in my system. We add complex planning. As one very famous person said, plans are nothing, but planning is everything. That is the core. You can't just make the system without plans. Second important thing is scoring system. At this point I thought, well, there should be a specific algorithm that will help to calculate your efficiency, honestly and very simple. You can't just say, hey, I've been 80% productive. You need to calculate it. And this algorithm and this system will help you to do that. And the last, but not the least component in this system is efficiency graph. As I said before, visual management is the key aspect of this system. You have to see what you have done this day, this week, this month, and where you're going in a long-term aspects. So let's get deep in each aspect. The first aspect is complex plans. Complex plan. So here we go from big to small. Let's say you have a goal to go to the university. That's your year goal. Goal for this year. You go a little bit less, right? You take this month. For this month, you have to prepare for SAT test, right? A key test that you have to take in order to go to the university. So you go even less this week. For this week, you have a goal, let's say, to practice 7 hours of SAT preparation. That means that each day you have to spend at least 1 hour for your preparation. That's what you add in your plans. That's how the system works. This simple, but at the same moment important aspect plays a key role in this system. Planning, planning, and planning. You know what you have to do and you run for big goals like going to university. You receive some you have done some hours besides just preparing for SAT. You have 24 hours each day, and for each hour you receive 1 point. That means you can get maximum of 24 points each day. So here I'll take my calculator, and let's say besides preparation for SAT, you have taken some other things to do. So here we have a calculator, and that's how it works. For each hour of being productive, you receive 1 point. Let's say this day you receive 16 points, which means you have done 16 very, very productive hours. Then you think, well, there is a week priority. You have 5 priorities for this week. Let's mention 3 main aspects. First one, your preparation for universities. Second one, let's say you want to have a good grades at school. Let's say all A's. And the third one is do sports every day. So if you have done 3 week priorities this day, that means you multiply this number by 1. And for going down or up, you add some dimensions. For instance, if you've done 4 priorities, you receive and multiply this number by 1.1. For 5 by 1.2, and vice versa if you're going down. So let's say this week we have done 3 priorities, which means 16 needs to be multiplied by 1. Then you go to a mood section. You can be 100% productive, you can do your work as good as you can. But if you're not living a happy life, that's nothing. Productivity is about being effective, but also being happy. So let's say you score your mood from 1 to 10. And for each point before or after 5, which is the midpoint of these numbers, you add them to 1 and multiply. So this thing is kind of complex, but at the same time it's not that hard. Let's say this week your mood was around 8, so it's 3 points after 5. That means this system you multiply by 1.03. At the end you receive this number. That's number that you're gonna use on the next slide. So here you can see the graph, and before you want to put this mark with this number on your graph, you multiply by 4, because 24 multiplied by 4 gives you the closest number to 100. 100% of being productive, 100% that all people are looking for. So here, for 16 hours, for completing 3 week priorities and staying in a good mood, you receive 65% efficiency. That's your 1 day, and each day you add those points on your graph. Put this graph next to your bed so you'll be able to see all those points before you go to sleep. You see what you have done in the long term. That's the key aspect of this system, to look for long-term goals. Try to make this graph look like a straight line. Don't make it too drastic. Don't try to push yourself of being 100% effective. Just to see isn't enough. Just to be productive isn't enough. You have to feel and understand that. So make sure you compare your results. Calculate your week efficiency. By adding all the percentages every day and dividing them by 7, you receive your average week efficiency. Compare your last week to this week to next week, and you'll see how your efficiency changes in percentages, not just in your feelings or your mood. Also, you can compare your month. Let's say you have done some work in June and you've done some work in July. Compare those months. Look what you do, what is right and what is not right. And the key advice that I want to give you here, guys, is use habits. You can force yourself. You can do as much work as you can, but habits is the core of any system. You can, for instance, you may sleep 6 hours a day and have 2 or 3 hours extra of doing some work. But will it help you in the long term? I'm not sure about that. But take a moment. Look if you sleep 8 hours, but the rest of hours you'll use on your maximum by using different habits. And the last, but not the least slide. Here I want to mention that this system is not perfect. Maybe it's too complex, and I'll advise you to watch this video again. This system has a great potential. We are, as said before, at the highest point of being productive. And this moment, we just have to understand productivity, feel it, and know how it influences our life. For that has been created Provisuality, this system. So I'll be glad if you could share this system worldwide. There'll be dramatic change in how we use our time, how we live, and how we just being happy. And then I want to mention the quote that inspired me to create this system, that helped me to go through all of these months, experiencing and challenging this system. If you won't prioritize your time, someone else will. So make sure that you prioritize your time, spend it right, being productive, and do your work right. Thank you for your attention.